What's going on, everybody? LK here today, continuing to talk about the characters in Guilty Gear Strive. We've actually done quite a few characters, and there are a couple characters we've gone back and talked about as well. So it's time to start getting into some of the spicy ones. I've been talking about top tiers, I've been talking about weaker characters. I'm kind of mixing in the middle right now, and I'm going to talk about one that I know people might not like the way I talk about so much. Is going to be Chipp Zanuff for the next character. So what is up with Chipp, man? So in this video, of course, I'm going to talk about the pros, cons, and how I think he fits into the meta of Guilty Gear. But usually I start these videos off with how the character kind of started out in the game. So this game, Guilty Gear Strive, has some legacy characters, they have some newcomers, they have some characters who are only in Exurd, they have some characters who are in every game. Chipp is in every game, and when the beta dropped, since a lot of new players came to Guilty Gear with Guilty Gear Strive, a lot of people are like, this character is garbage, does no damage, things like that. But in hindsight, the character was pretty strong. He ended up winning 2 of the online EVOs, both in the EU region and in the Latin American region. He's a pretty polarizing character as well, because he falls in that group of, oh, I can do basically everything, but I die really fast. Some people, like myself, I'm not really a big fan of that type of design, but also it can be a pretty fun type of character to play when you have like all these really strong tools. And then finally, there's also the point of people from different regions don't agree on where he kind of falls in the game in general, but we'll get to that at the end. So first, let's start positive about the ninja of the game and talk about his pros. So first has to be how strong his neutral is. He basically has a god neutral in this game. He is super fast. He has 3 jumps, and he's able to alter his air momentum in ways that other characters cannot. For example, air dashing and double jumping. His air dash is also faster than other characters. So a pretty standard air dash in this game would be like Baiken's. So this is what it looks like with no button. And when you do press a button, you end up flying at a different rate, kind of like this. Now, Millia has the fastest air dash in the game, actually. The trade-off is it doesn't go as far as other characters. And she has 2 air dashes, but she's not able to double jump after her air dash. But of course, she has other ways of altering her air momentum. She's a very strong character in the air. So Chipp is kind of in between, which makes his air dash very strong in that it goes a similar distance to typical characters, but he can act faster, which can be pretty hard to deal with in combination with his extremely fast run. So his buttons are also quite good. So he has his far slash, which is very huge. His kicks are quite good. His 5K has this type of property where you have to reach to his back leg to hit his 5K. A bunch of kicks have this, like Millia has it, Ram has it, Baiken has it, a few characters have that. But again, it's a nice thing to have in a move like that when you're so explosive. His sweep is a pretty underrated button as well. And his 2S, while not the best poke of all time, has a whiff cancel in case you miss it, and the whiff cancel is 2H, which has people airborne, so you might catch people that you might not otherwise. His 5P is 3 frames, it's with the other 3-framer in the game, along with Soul's 5K. Short range, but just good to have in case something whiffs and you notice the opponent nearby. And his speed, combined with 6P, it can make it hard for opponents to stop him by using long range mid pokes, especially considering how explosive he is. So defense-wise, he has really good defense. So what I mean is defensive tools. So he has like a 3-frame, which has niche applications, basically in spots where he might be able to punish something that other characters can't because of the speed. He does have a DP, and his backdash goes quite far. He has a lot of ways to mix you up. So more obvious ones would be like special moves that cross up, like Alpha Blade, or his command grab that he has, or his fast overhead in 6K. But he has a lot more than that. He has ways of setting up left-rights off things like this. He has wall slump situations that use his wall run to set up for mix-ups. And with the last hit of his Rekka buffed to be much faster, he's able to mix up options kind of like Anji, involving delay, special cancel into overhead. His meter gain is quite good, just kind of based on how his combos work and how his pressure works. So like a typical string you might see would be something like this. He builds a good amount of meter from that. There's a lot of guessing games he has revolving around resetting these situations, which means he would get them again. He has a chainable 5K, This also makes it kind of ambiguous on pressure and gives him opportunities to build meter. In the case that you respect Gamma Blade, this move is very plus, which lets him restart his pressure. So for example, if something like this happened to you, so there were a couple of spots where the defender could have done something, but if they don't do anything, he gets to push his turn again, build risk, and build meter. He naturally just gains meter pretty quickly. And then finally, he not only has a really good wall break situation, but he's able to break the wall from really, really far between his hit confirms that he doesn't get all the time, but when he does, he gets really consistent corner carry off them, and his ability to card cancel his Rekkas into super. So for the latter, in this example here, I'm going to do it from round start. So having access to this does a couple of things. One, it makes random hits way scarier than just getting RC'd and then breaking the wall, because different characters have different combo routes, right? So not every character can necessarily carry to the wall from really far and then break the wall when they want, when Chipp can if he feels like it. The other scary thing is that he's able to start an infinite block string in positive from really little resource. So here I'm not like breaking the wall into this, but I have him starting at around like 5 meter, just for an example. So of course, doing this, you're giving the opponent a lot of meter, but you're also building their burst. You can sneak in mix-ups during this. You're building meter really fast, so you can mix in extra mix-ups and really tricky, sneaky things when you want. It's a really rough situation, and honestly, potentially round-ending situation when he gets access to positive bonus. But now, with good things must come bad things, so we're going to talk about his cons. So I mentioned he had good defense, as in defensive tools, but as far as HP, he literally dies. He takes a ton of damage. So there are a lot of examples of combos that do a ton of damage to Chipp, but since I'm a Viking player, I'm going to show one that you've probably maybe seen in matches if you have watched tournaments. Very high damage indeed, where if we compare it to a character that has a ton of life, so while it is certainly a lot of damage, you can just see that Chipp just takes way more for the same stuff. And on top of defense, he also has a worse risk modifier. So along with my classic main, Milia, Chipp also has a really bad risk modifier of 1.25. For comparison, Baiken has a standard one of 1.0. And what this means is he just builds guard meter faster, and remember, you take more damage when you build more risk. So for example, 5H from Baiken is attack level 4. Honestly, most characters 5H attack level 4. So let's say he blocks 5H and then has to block a whole thing. So this does 238 damage. It is off a close slash starter, so that's a ton of damage from Baiken's B&B. But if I just hit him raw, notice how it does quite a bit less actually, 192. So it's still a lot, but a significant amount less, and he only blocked one attack level 4 move. So you can see the difference too of what happens when Baiken blocks an attack level 4 move and what happens to her risk gauge compared to when I make Chipp block attack level 4 move. So for comparison, I'm going to have Baiken doing 2 attack level 4 moves to Chipp, and then Chipp doing 2 attack level 4 moves to Baiken. So Baiken here, I'm just going to do 5H, H Kabari. So it's basically the whole burst. Goes right to the whole burst there as far as letters, just using that to keep track. So here it is again. And then here's Chipp doing 5H, RC 5H, where you can see it goes to just before the B, but it's not like the whole word. So he's building risk overall faster than other characters, which means he's going to take more damage than other characters. And then on top of that, he already takes more damage than other characters. He does have a good guts modifier, but it really only matters right before he's gonna die, not really when the game is being played outright. Another con is a lot of his important moves have extended hurt boxes. So essentially his main disjointed move is this 5H, which looks very different to this, which is a 6P. If you can't tell the difference, don't worry, people who are good at the game can't tell either, especially in matches. It's very easy to tell in training mode when he is not running at you at absolute max speed. The difference between him doing a Hadouken on the 5H and him kind of twisting his wrist and torso there on the 6P. But this 6P and 5H are basically his go-tos for this. 6P is something that basically everyone has, so it's really just 5H. And it's tough because a lot of his important tools that make him explosive have this problem. So, of course, the kicks and his sweep, and notably his far slash. And his far slash has had other weaknesses like being really weak to lows for a long time. Something like this. You can also leave hitboxes behind if your character has that type of move to hit these attacks. So, something like that. His conversion ability is kind of a mixed bag. He doesn't consistently get high damage combos. In the cases where he can convert into a big combo, he definitely will. But for the most part, a lot of his hits tend to be relatively low damage. I think this one is kind of balanced out by how quickly he builds meter, but it's still a factor to take into consideration, and especially considering the characters that are popular in tournaments like Leo, like Nago, like HC. Then you have actually his speed. So speed is a pro and his speed is a con. So being fast in this game is really important, especially since not a lot of characters have varied air movement. It's very rare for a character to be able to alter their momentum in any way, to be honest. But the downside is, especially if you're not like a veteran fighting game player, the character being fast encourages you to be fast, and the character, Chipp, has so many things that can't be seen until they already happen that you might be making too many decisions without actually seeing what's going on. It could help in some spots and it will hurt in other spots, and since he has low life, he really doesn't have a lot of room for error as far as his decision making. So while he has like these strong tools, good neutral, able to pull up on pressure, good mix, all that stuff, if you're going too fast, then you might run into things that you don't want to run into. I put this as a con for him, but it's also the players kind of in this mix as well. And then finally, his offense is strong but interactable. So a lot of the stuff he likes to use are negative. So his Rekkas, while strong and leaving him at a good position, they are both negative on block and on hit. So either the person needs to not know the matchup well, or you need a ton of respect to get these off. And while Gamma Blade is plus on block, it is not fast startup. And unlike Nago's clone, you can just straight up hit this and Chipp will take damage. So if I swing into it just like that, I'll hit him. And he will take damage. I'm sure you might remember when the game came out, clips of Chipp players using Gamma Blade in like neutral, and a Ramlethal player using super from full screen and hitting the clone and thus hitting Chipp, knocking him down, sometimes killing him. There were a lot of clips going around when the game came out to show like, oh, this move is bad. For that reason, but it is a flaw in the move. So like it is advantageous and lets him take another turn, but it has startup, and if you hit the clone, you hit him. So overall, I think Chipp is a very good character. The thing that always like bothered me about a lot of these characters, and sometimes when I talk about characters where people like, you should be talking about Happy Chaos and how broken he is. You should be talking about Nago and how broken he is. Why do you talk about characters like Chipp and Jacko and Faust? And it's usually because, one, people never talk about the good things the character has. They only complain about the bad things the character has, when all characters have good points and weak points. It's honestly, there's no other way to say it. I get really bothered by this. I say Chipp players kind of do it the worst to me, because I'll even go to like offline events and I'll sit down and a Chipp player will sit down. I'll be on bike and they'll be like, well, time to play this terrible matchup, and I can't help but get really angry when people do that, because I feel like they're just ignoring the good things about the character, hyper focusing on the bad things about the character, and maybe not even thoroughly looking at the interactions between the two characters. It's not just Chipp players that do that. There are other characters that do that too, people of other characters that do that. But in my head, it's like Chipp's like the main one that has done this basically since the game has come out, where he's like a legacy character. So unlike Geo, where people really weren't sure how good she was, and like some people are like, oh, she's actually really good really early and stuff, but it kind of took a few months. There were Chipp players who were like, honestly, Chipp's pretty good in this version. He performed really well really early on, while other people are like, oh, Chipp is doomed, Chipp is doomed, Chipp is doomed. So in my opinion, again, not top tier, but close. I know in the Asia region, there are tier lists that have Chipp as God tier. So I'm here with you Chipp players. He's not God tier. I say he's broken when I'm mad, but I don't mean it, okay? I don't mean it. He's not broken. He's really, really good. I think you can win a big major with him, especially in this current version. But you gotta be clean. Like, I feel like he's the same as Millet. Like, we could shake hands on that, where he has very low room for error, and he's very punishing to learn how to play. But if you put the time, he will greatly, greatly reward you. And the way it looks when you play against like a really high level Chipp is it feels like he's smothering you from like all ranges. Basically, it's really, really suffocating. It's really, really, really hard to deal with, and it's honestly a really, really good thing in case you're competing, because he has a lot of opportunities to create the opportunities he wants, build the meter he wants, and then use the resource the way he wants. So overall, I think Chipp is eating in this version. If you're interested in viewer request videos, hit up my Patreon. I booted that back up, patreon.com/LordKnight. When this video drops, the entry for my sub tournament on Twitch should be live. So if you're interested in that, there'll be a link to the entry page on StartGG below. Again, top 3 will be a team for a 3v3 against some other creators for the game. So if you're interested in that, feel free to sign up. As usual, if you guys have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.